right, we're back in action,
Yes.
man. Last show before the Oscars, and what better way than having the one and only Danny Ruhlmann, the cinematographer from Anyone But You, on the show to talk all about the nitty-gritty of camera techniques, film versus digital, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, and the dynamic in Sydney, Australia, where this film was shot. It's an amazing interview, man. I'm super excited for everybody to hear this one.
Yeah, I loved it because if you're into cinematography or into how they lay out shots or just how things work, you're going to hear all of that. But you're also going to hear the personal side of it, how he approaches what he picks for projects and where he will go or won't go, how he feels about the cast and how he tries to take care of his cast and he's concerned about their safety, and so much valuable information from below the line, right? We talk all the time about above the line and people in front of the camera, but there's so much behind the camera, and he just gives it all to us. It's an amazing interview.
It really is. It really is. Well, that's later on the show. Now, let's get a little crazy.
Hello, everyone. So you want to start a podcast but have no idea where to start? Well, Crazy Ant Media is here to help you. We want to assist you finding your VFE. What's VFE, you ask? Well, that is your voice, your format, and your equipment. These are the three biggest essentials you need to start your podcast. All those hours watching non-stop YouTube videos or all those random website links, those are done. Just hop on a Zoom call with us and we'll talk about everything you need to know to create your own podcast and find your voice. Plus, we will send you home with a 12-page packet over everything we just discussed. It's very in-depth. It is definitely a must-need while trying to start your first podcast. Contact us at info@crazyantmedia.com today so that you can start finding your podcast voice for tomorrow.
What's up, guys? Oh my goodness, episode 253 coming at you with host with the most, myself, J-Lo Fantastic, and the one and only Mouth.
What's up?
Man, oh man. But before teasing the rest of this show, be sure to leave a rating on this podcast, comment below, and let us know what you actually think about this show. Because if you didn't know, leaving a rating actually helps this podcast get seen by more people who enjoy entertainment news, but especially those who are trying to break into the entertainment industry.
Facts.
If you are new to the show, welcome to Inside the Crazy Ant Farm, where each week we talk about the latest entertainment news that's happening in Hollywood, Vancouver, all around the world. If it has to do with film and television, we are talking about it. Not only do we talk about what actors are getting attached to what projects, but we also talk about the business side of things. We talk about numbers. We talk about the streaming wars. Everything that's going down in Hollywood, you can get it here at ITCAFpodcast. And then, of course, we also talk to your favorite celebrity guests. They come on the show and talk about their experiences on set, how they got started, and so much more. Especially if you're an up-and-comer trying to break into the entertainment industry, you can kind of craft how you want to break into the entertainment industry by either following their path or, taking a little piece of advice here and there from their interview. That's what we're here to do here at Crazy Ant Media and ITCAFpodcast, is to lend that helping hand to everyone trying to break into the entertainment industry.
Facts.
But man, oh man, it was a great freaking week. I'm super excited to talk about all the entertainment news, but what was your week like? I know you had a shingle shot, so I know that was kind of rough for you at the beginning of the week. Are you recovered yet? Are you recovered?
I'm recovered. I'm just dealing with a little bit of a headache. But yeah, you guys, for anybody out there who hasn't, you've seen all the commercials. Say, oh, you don't want to get shingles. And Terry Bradshaw talks about it and all that kind of stuff. And I saw personally, I had a relative get it and it was some scary shit. So it was time for me to get my vaccine. And it's a double dose. So I got my first one, no problem. Nothing. It was a little sore, but that was it. Didn't even swell up. It was nothing. Next day, was like I didn't even get it. So I thought, no problem. Well, I went back for my second dose, and my doctor was like, listen, second dose might hit you. And I'm like, no, I didn't have any problems. And she said, it might hit you. And it hit me. It took me down. At the beginning of the week, I had the headaches, I had the stomach aches, I had the fatigued muscles, just absolutely could not stand up or get out of bed. It was this arm looked like it had a tennis ball inside of it and I couldn't lift it. But I'm not going to get shingles. But yeah, man, it was not a pleasant start to the week. I still got some stuff done. I was still able to be productive. Barely. I had to one hand a lot of but, it's all a part of just being alive, man. You got to do what you got to do, bro. You don't want to, as we just continue to go with the flow, we got to get some stuff. It's us, going
That's
back for
right,
another
that's
one
right.
at the beginning of next week. I got to go back for more shots. It's like fantastic.
Exactly.
But
I know it was a funny week for you to challenge me to
I
a
know.
fitness on the Apple sharing thing.
You
So I thought that was pretty funny.
I felt really confident that I was going to have no side effects like the first one. That's why I challenged you. And then the first day we were like, bam, neck and neck, everything. And then poof. And I'm like, well, I ain't going this day or that day. But,
because I've decided to take it seriously. After tomorrow, I should hit 30 miles in exercise and walking and hiking and sprinting. I actually just got back to sprinting yesterday, so that was kind of weird. But I was moving my arms so much that my shoulder blades are sore.
Yeah.
That's how much I have not moved that part of my body. But while doing this, I've been listening to Viola Davis's book, Finding Me. It's about her life. And boy, if you guys have not listened to or read her book, be sure to do that. It is very insightful on how she broke into the entertainment industry, but also her life growing up in Rhode Island and South Carolina. It's hard, man. It's a hard listen, especially she narrates the book on the audiobook. And sometimes I have to put it down for a couple days and then come back to it. But it's an amazing read, and definitely everybody should check it out. People have been asking us about our next book club, and I've been reading a lot since December, so I'm gearing up. I'm getting ready for it.
Too.
I know you have been too.
Yeah, I just nonstop reading all over the place. I got a really good one that you guys know we host another one too. Everything's Okay podcast about mental health, and I'm currently reading one called Mother Nature. And it's not about Mother Nature. It's Mother, Nature by Jedediah Jenkins. And this is about a guy and his mom who take a cross-country hiking trip, 5,000-mile hiking trip. His parents did it. The mom and dad did it when they were young in the 70s and got famous from it. They were in Time magazine and all this kind of stuff. But here's the gist of the story. They do not get along on anything. They view life differently. He's gay and she's hardcore Christian and against it, and they think differently politically. They think that. So this whole book is about how do they learn on this journey to get along and respect each other's opinions and how they live life and kind of a thing. So it's a really good just book on, if you're out there, and it doesn't even have to be a mom, son, anything. This book will help guide you along. If you're having problems figuring out how to relate with people that you love and trying to figure out how you can make it work, this is a great book. Like you, though, sometimes it's like, I got to stop for a little bit because that was a little rough. That was a little intense. So you got to step back a little bit. But yeah, man, I love all the reading that we're doing. And it's just, it's going to be fun. We promise we will get another book club very soon. And we will suggest books and we will have a really good time with it. It's going to be a blast.
For sure, for sure. Well, you guys are here for the entertainment news, right? Oh, man, we have a lot for you. I mean, the stuff we talked about last week at the very beginning of the show, Shogun and Avatar Last Airbender, man, they have some record-breaking numbers and some renewals coming at you. And we're super excited to talk about that. We're going to also be giving you an update on the Rush situation, that Rush shooting that happened a couple years ago, and so much more that's going down in the entertainment news that we're super excited to dive into. But of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. You see some stuff hanging up right here. We also have different things available on the website that you wouldn't think of. We have like phone cases, tumblers, and a whole bunch more. Teddy bears. It's freaking amazing, guys. So like I said, be sure to head over to crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear, where now we are partnering with Champion, Under Armour, Adidas, some organic brands, different things like that. Our partnership with Spreadshirt and is extending to different exclusive brands that are known around the world, which it's amazing to be a part of. It really is.
It is.
But we are starting with, like I said, the update on the Russ situation, the Russ trial, I guess I should say. Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer on the ill-fated Western film Rust, was convicted on Wednesday of involuntary manslaughter in the death of the film's cinematographer.
Yep.
Now, jurors returned the verdict after less than 3 hours of deliberations on Wednesday afternoon, following 2 weeks of testimony about safety lapses on set. Now, to convict on the involuntary manslaughter charge, jurors had to agree that Gutierrez Reed acted with willfully disregard for the safety of others on set, and that the death was a foreseeable consequence of her actions. Now, shortly before the verdict, the jurors asked the question about what might constitute an intervening event that would break the foreseeable chain of events. Now, Marlowe Somer said that she could not offer further explanation that what was contained in the jury instructions. Now, Gutierrez Reed was acquitted of a separate charge of tampering with evidence. She faces up to 18 months in prison at sentencing, which is expected sometime in April. Now, following the verdict, Judge Mary Marlowe Somer ordered Gutierrez Reed remanded into custody, as her attorney Monica Barreras rubbed her back to comfort her. Now, bailiffs, of course, led her away. Now, Gutierrez Reed was the first person to stand trial in the October 21st, 2021 shooting on the film set in Bonanza Creek Ranch outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, Alec Baldwin is set to face his own manslaughter trial in July, and the first assistant director, Dave Halls, took a plea deal last year to a misdemeanor count of negligent handling of a gun and served 6 months of unsupervised probation. Now, Gutierrez Reed loaded the live bullet into Baldwin's pistol, which should have been contained by only dummy rounds. Now, the gun fired, killing Helena Hutchins and seriously wounding the director Joel Souza. Now, Gutierrez Reed got the job largely because her father, Theo Reed, is a legendary film armorer who worked on Tombstone, 310 to Yuma, and LA Confidential, among many others. Now, Theo Reed was in the courtroom when the verdict had been read. Now, though his name was on the defense witness list, he was not called to testify. Now, Stacy Reed, the defendant's mother, was also there and was in tears when her daughter was led away. Of course, I mean, that only makes sense, but I feel like this is a domino effect, especially since on social media you have been seeing some more videos come out of Alec Baldwin shooting the gun and then rushing people to load it back and all of these different things. I think this is far from over, at least for the next year. But yeah, man, that's what we have so far.
Yeah, this does not bode well for Alec Baldwin. Her being convicted is it's all signs are pointing to he's going to also be convicted, because they're going to find it just as easy to find him guilty knowing that it was reckless and they could see what was going to happen without taking the safety precautions. Everybody knows they skipped the proper protocol. Everybody knows it. That's why the assistant director took a plea deal. That's why she said, yeah, I loaded the gun. We didn't check the barrel. I didn't hand it off. He didn't check the barrel. And like you said, they show the video of Alec Baldwin just grabbing it and let's go, let's shoot. He never opened it to check the barrel. It's impossible for... I mean, I'm just going to say it. It would be impossible for a jury to not find him guilty also. I think he's going to be convicted as well, and rightfully so. Somebody has to pay for it. It was reckless behavior, and a woman died. And shit, the director was seriously wounded. I mean, I think this is the right call, and I agree with you. I don't think it's over, and I think we're going to see more convictions. It's going to happen. All right, let's jump over to some fun news, though. Let's go over to the Mouse House, and in a competitive situation with multiple studios bidding, 20th Century Studios has reeled in theatrical distribution rights to Imagine Entertainment's thriller Whale Fall, based on the recently published novel by bestseller Daniel Kraus. Now, aboard to co-write, direct, and produce the film is Brian Duffield, who has a strong relationship with 20th President Steve Absell, and his team following their work together on the acclaimed sci-fi thriller No One Will Save You. Now Imagine snapped the book up for development in a preemptive film rights deal last summer. Now, this is interesting, guys. Listen to this premise. Whale Fall is described as The Martian meets 127 hours. The book is about a scuba diver in search of his deceased father's remains who gets swallowed up by an 80-foot, 60-ton sperm whale and has only 1 hour to escape before his oxygen runs out. After giving up on life, the young man is surprised to find the reason to live is the most dangerous and unlikely of places. Yes, you heard me right. This scuba diver gets swallowed by a giant fucking whale and has an hour to try to figure out how to get out before he suffocates to death inside the stomach. What? Yes, that's got fireworks. That's a great... That sounds insane. It's like from Pinocchio. Remember when he goes in the... I just... What? I don't even know, bro.
Weird. Very weird.
I don't want to be swallowed by a big-ass whale. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, very weird. As tradition, the Walt Disney Company is embracing synergy across its divisions to stoke awareness and tune in for Sunday night's 96 Oscars. A more pressing issue this year is not only does this year's event take place the first day of daylight saving time, but it's set to begin at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. or 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central. Now, a full hour earlier than usual. This year's partnership inside Disney's include an Oscar Pick'em game sponsored by ESPN, a special treat at Disney parks, and Academy Awards themed program marathons on Disney-owned networks, including FX, Freeform, and Nat Geo. Now, ABC News special programming includes the live pre-show countdown to the Oscars on the Red Carpet Live on Sunday, March 10th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and of course, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, the pre-show coverage also streams on ABC's News Live starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, up until, of course, the start of the Oscar ceremony. We're super excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think pushing it back an hour is actually going to do a lot of good, to be honest, because they already run over 3 hours long. So I think this is a good call.
Oh, without doubt, especially since it's fallen on when we're pushing the clocks ahead an hour. We don't want to stay up even more. So this was a smart move. Hopefully it works, and they just continue to start it at the shorter hour. I think that would be a great thing. All right, you know her. You know we love her. I'm talking about the one, the only, oh, that matters. Oprah Winfrey. She has apparently set an hour-long ABC primetime special about weight loss drugs following her exit from the board of Weight Watchers after revealing her personal use of the drugs. Now, the special, titled an Oprah Special, Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution, will air later on this month. Oprah recorded the special in front of a live studio audience and gathers medical experts to discuss weight loss drugs such as Ozempic, Morano, and Wegovy. The medical experts featured in the primetime special are Cleveland Clinic's Dr. W. Scott Booch, ABC News chief medical correspondent Jennifer Ashton, ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton, and by the way, Jennifer is a doctor, I'm sorry, and Cedars-Sinai Medical Center's Dr. Amanda Velasquez. Oprah will also interview patients from around the country who used weight loss medications. Now, questions addressed in the special include such things as who are the medications really intended for, who is eligible to receive weight loss drugs, what are the short-term and long-term side effects of the drugs. Now, news of the primetime special comes several days after Oprah announced that she was stepping down from the board of Weight Watchers after almost 10 years because she had used these weight loss drugs and didn't feel comfortable saying that she was with Weight Watchers when she was using other drugs to lose weight. She had served on the company's board since 2015 when she acquired a 10% stake in the company. An Oprah special, Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution, airs Monday, March 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC, and it'll stream the next day on Hulu. So, Kelly Clarkson has been using these drugs. There's a lot of people that have been using these drugs with massive success. So I like the idea that Oprah's doing a special and talking about them, and should you take them, should you not take them. I think this is a good thing.
Well, yeah, and I mean the trend right now is definitely Ozempic. So I
Yeah.
mean you hear people, celebrities specifically, talk about that constantly. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting, and I mean, of course, it's coming from the only O that matters. So it's really cool to get some more information on it. That's for sure. Well, that's right. Tim Allen is one step closer to returning to ABC for the third time. Now the alphabet is set or net, the Alphabet Net has given a pilot order to his latest sitcom, shifting gears from
Mm.
20th Television. Now, Allen is on board to star and executive produce in the multicam sitcom pilot, which is still a working title, which will also be written and executive produced by Mike Scully and Julie Thacker Scully. I'm guessing they're either partners or siblings. Now, in the project, Alan plays Matt, a stubborn, widowed owner of a classic car restoration shop. When Matt's estranged daughter and her teenage kids move back into his house, the real restoration begins.
Mm.
Now, Marty Aldstein, Becky Clements, Richard Backer, and Rick Messina are the non-writing executive producers on the show. Now, shifting gears continues Allen's long association with ABC and Disney, including the long-running hit 1991 to 97 Home Improvement. Allen later starred in ABC's Last Man Standing, which aired on the Alphabet Web from 2011 to 2017, and then, of course, moved to Fox from 2018 to 2021. Now, Allen also most recently starred in and executive produced the Disney Plus series The Santa Clauses. And now in that series, he reprised his role as Scott Calvin, aka Santa Claus. At Disney, Allen has served for decades as the voice of Buzz Lightyear in Disney's Oscar-winning Toy Story franchise. So this only makes sense. I mean, it's cool to see. It's cool to see. I'll definitely give it a shot.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've always loved his sitcoms, and you knew it had to be something about cars or tools or something because that's what he does. So I'm pumped for it. I think it's going to be good. I'm also super pumped about this because none of my theaters had this. They weren't showing it, but now I can watch it, and I can watch it before the Oscars. I'm talking about Best Picture nominee Poor Things. It's streaming on Hulu ahead of the Academy Awards. That's right. The film, a Frankenstein-esque tale directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and starring, of course, the one and only Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, and Willem Dafoe, arrived on Hulu yesterday morning. Now, it's nominated, if you guys didn't know, for 11 Oscars, including Best Picture, Lead Actress, and Director. The film won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Music, or Comedy earlier this year, and Stone took home the trophy for Actress in a Musical or Comedy. So, I'm super excited about that. Like I said, this is one of the ones that I hadn't been able to see, and I was getting upset about that, but now I can see it, so I'm pumped.
For sure, for sure. Emma and Lily are like neck and neck for the Oscars, I feel like. If
Yes.
you go on FanDuel, I think they're very close. I mean, if y'all didn't know, you can bet on the Oscars. You can see what happens.
You
So
can
that's
bet
very
on everything
interesting.
now, man. It's like
You
everything.
really can. But yeah, I'm excited to watch that one for sure, for sure. Well, every season of Grey's Anatomy is now available to stream on Hulu. While all new episodes will become available on the Disney-owned streamer the day after their initial broadcast on ABC. Now, see, of course, seasons 1 through 19 of the show are still also available to stream on Netflix as well. Now, the news that Hulu and Netflix would share co-exclusive U.S. streaming rights to all prior 19 seasons of Grey's Anatomy came last December as part of the new licensing deal between Disney Entertainment and Netflix. Not only Hulu will have the complete series as new in-season episodes from the upcoming season 20 of the hit show will be available to stream after they air on ABC, of course, along with the previous 19 seasons. Now, the Grey's Anatomy expansion on Hulu is part of a proposed short-term U.S. content agreement, which under Disney Entertainment will license 14 library series to Netflix on a non-exclusive basis. Now, the older seasons of Grey's Anatomy land on Hulu at the same time Disney officially launches Hulu on Disney Plus as well as that little add-on bar, which made its debut in a beta form last December. Now, the One app inauguration lets subscribers both Disney Plus and Hulu access most of the content, but not all of it, of the Hulu lineup from any of the Disney Plus apps. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's still very choppy, I guess you could say. I still just bundle it all together.
Yeah.
That makes life so much easier. But yeah, man, there it is. Get your Grey's Anatomy and Sex in Elevators.
Yeah. There you go. Sure. I'm wondering what the other 13 titles are going to be that they're going to give to Netflix to coexist. They have a lot of good shows, so I'm curious about it. All right, Kumail I never say his name right. Kumail Nanjiani. You know who I'm talking about. He's joined Only Murders in the Building Season 4 at Hulu. Now, he will appear in a recurring role that is mostly being kept, of course, under wraps, though an individual with knowledge of the situation says his character will be integral to the season's investigation. Now, he joins previously announced new Season 4 cast members Eugene Levy, Eva Longoria, and Molly Shannon. And we've also told you, of course, that Meryl Streep is also set to reprise her role from Season 3. And the series, of course, is led by your trio that you love, Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. So that's pretty cool. Now, plot details are scarce for the new season, aside from the fact that it is known that the three main characters will make a trip to Los Angeles before returning to New York. Martin, John Hoffman, Short, and Gomez still all executive produce Only Murders in the Building, along with Dan Fogelman and Jess Rosenthal. And of course, it was created, if you didn't know, by Steve Martin and Hoffman. 20th Century Television, of course, is the studio. And this one remains a big hit for Disney, and I'm pumped to see what the new season looks like.
Yeah, man, it seems like the last couple weeks we've just been nonstop talking about it, at least the last 3 weeks. So, I mean, that's been very cool. Very cool.
You got Grey's Anatomy. Can I have this one?
Of course. I was just about to say.
All right. Hey, the debut of FX limited series Shogun has proven to be a hit with audiences, y'all. Get this. The premiere episodes of the 10-episode series has pulled in 9 million views globally across Hulu, Disney Plus, and Star Plus in its first 6 days of availability, with a view defined as total stream time divided by runtime. Now, that is high enough to make it the #1 scripted series premiere globally for Disney General Entertainment, beating, get this, The Kardashians Season 1 and the #1 premiere of an FX series on Hulu in the U.S. ahead of The Bear. What? Because The Bear was a massive hit. I was shocked by this, but I'm not surprised. Shogun, based on the James Clavell novel of the same name, has long been a passion project for FX chief John Landgraf, who originally greenlit it way back in 2018. Now, you guys have heard us been talking about it over the last couple weeks. I'm huge into the Japanese culture. I love everything to do with it. I'm old, so I watched the original miniseries of Shogun. I was a fan of that one. I was skeptical of this one. I am so all in. I've watched every episode so far. They took so much great detail to be so authentic with Japan and its cultures and how it's represented and the look and the feel of feudal Japan back in the day. It's beautiful. You'd love it because the cinematography and the production design is just incredible. And I'd love to get somebody on from there to talk to us because I think they use a lot of natural lighting and it's brilliant. But anyway, if you guys haven't checked it out, check this series out because it's unreal. It's amazing. It's amazing.
For sure. Well, we're heading over to Fox, and just imagine me and Dustin shirtless running slow motion down the beach because that's right. It's happening, guys. The Baywatch reboot has found a new home at Fox, and they have closed on a script plus penalty deal for a new version of the long-running Surf, Sand, and Survivor series from Fremantle. Now, Fox and Fremantle have tapped Laura Olson from Spinning Out to serve as showrunner for the new Baywatch, which was originally created by Michael Burke, Douglas Schwartz, and Gregory John Bonan. Now, starring David Hasselhoff, Baywatch originally ran from 1989 to 1999, and then it was retooled as Baywatch Hawaii from 99 to 2001. Now, Olsenberg, Bonanen, and Schwartz will serve as executive producers on the one-hour drama, which comes from both Fremantle and Fox Entertainment. Now, here's the official logline. Daring ocean rescues, pristine beaches, and iconic red bathing suits are back, along with a whole new generation of Baywatch lifeguards who navigate complicated, messy personal lives in this action-packed reboot that demonstrates there's the family you're born into and then the family you find that may or may not be in hot bikinis. A Baywatch reboot has been discussed in the past, most recently a Baywatch film starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Zac Efron was released back in 2017, and that movie grossed about $178 million globally, but was not critically acclaimed. So this is interesting how this is coming back, but we're in the day and age of reboots, so there it is.
Yeah, nobody wants to see us running down the beach shirtless. I mean, we'd have to... The theme song would have to be Blinded by the Light, because I am so nuclear white that if the sun hit me, you'd be blinded. You'd never be able to see anything. It'd be a disaster. And yeah, you're right. That film was not very good. God bless God bless The Rock. I love him, but that movie was not good. But people love people in bathing suits running slow, so I guess this thing might work. I don't know. Fox has also assembled the cast for its new medical drama series, Doc. How original that is, right? It's around the previously cast lead, Molly Parker, Omar Metwali, Amira Van, John Eckernan, and Anya Banajiri are set as series regulars, and Scott Wolf, yes, that's Scott Wolf from Party of Five, and Patrick Walker will recur in the show from writer, executive producer, and showrunner Barbie Kilgman, executive producers Hank Steinberg, and 3 Arts Erwin Stoff. Now, Sony Pictures Television and Fox Entertainment are the studios behind it. Production on Doc actually started in Toronto, Canada already. The Fox drama centers on the hard-charging, brilliant Dr. Amy Larson, Chief of International Medicine at Westside Hospital in Minneapolis. Now, after brain surgery erases the last 8 years of her life, Amy must navigate an unfamiliar world where she has no recollection of patients that she's treated, colleagues that she's crossed, the man she loves, or the tragedy that caused her to push everyone away. She can rely only on her estranged 17-year-old daughter, who she seems to remember as a 9-year-old, and a handful of devoted friends as she struggles to continue practicing medicine despite having not nearly a decade of knowledge and experience. This is TV. Because if you have amnesia and you don't remember 10 whole years of your life, wouldn't you have to get your license again? I mean, you can't just keep practicing medicine if you can't remember shit, right? Like, just saying, I wouldn't want her fucking with my brain.
Definitely a TV premise, that's for sure. Definitely a TV premise.
Yeah.
Well, we're hopping over to Warner Brothers Discovery, and of course, they are the latest streaming service to be cracking down on the password sharing bandwagon. Ooh. Of course, we're talking about sharing your passwords outside of your household, basically. Of course, this was started by Netflix, and more recently, Disney Plus joined. Now, J.B. Perrette, president and CEO of Global Streaming and Games at Warner Bros. Discovery, announced the coming crackdown on Max password sharing this week at the 2024 Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference. That's a fucking mouthful. According to Max's term of use, most recently updated on February 27th, Warner Brothers Discovery reserves the rights to modify, access, or disable features, including sharing outside of your household, or where we have concluded in a dissertation that there have been misuse of your Max account. If a suspension or termination occurs, you must stop using the platform. Now, Warner Brothers' move to monetize Max password sharing is part of its efforts to boost financial performance of streaming. Now, of course, Warner Brothers Discovery also plans to launch a Max ad-supported plan in more than 40 markets by the end of 2024. So they're also jumping on that bandwagon as well.
Yep. You got to do what you got to do. They all want to be profitable. If we want them to hang around, I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do, right? You want this next one? I know. You're a fan.
For sure. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. That's right. House of the Dragon Season 2 will debut on HBO in June. That's right. We have a release month finally, guys. We love the incest. We love the incest. Warner Brothers Discovery streaming and gaming chief JB Perrette, who we just mentioned in the last story, revealed the launch month for the second season of Game of Thrones. Of course, the spinoff during the interview of Morgan Stanley's Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference Monday. Jesus Christ. While the exec did not specify the exact date of season two's premiere, this is the most information that we have gotten in that release date window. So, I mean, we've got to be happy with something, right?
Exactly.
And then, of course, HBO's chief Casey Bloys teasing an early summer date back in November, if y'all remember that. And, of course, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO figurehead David Zaslav saying next quarter on the company's quarter four earnings call, February 23rd. Now, House of the Dragon follows the Targaryen dynasty in the fictional content of Westeros. It takes place nearly 200 years before the events of the original Game of Thrones and about 100 years after the Targaryens united the Seven Kingdoms. Now, the returning cast for the House of the Dragon Season 2 includes, of course, the one and only Matt Smith, Olivia Cook, Emma D'Arcy, Eve Best, Steve Towastant, Fabian Frankel, Ewan Mitchell, Tom Glenn Carney, Sonia Menzun, Reyes Infant, Harry Collette, Bethany Antonia, Phoebe Campbell, Shvi Sabin, Jefferson Hall, and Matthew Needham. Now, previously announced newcomers are Adbukar Salem as Ayland of Hull, Gail Rankin as Eris Reaver, Freddie Fox as Sir Gawain Hightower, and Simone Russell Bale as Sir Simon Strong. So, all exciting things. At least we kind of have a time range now for the second season. But man, oh man, we're super excited about it because it's very popular. It's very popular.
It is indeed very popular. I mean, and I think they're going to keep just spinning stuff off for a long time to come. Hey, Mean Girls the Musical, jumping over to Paramount. Mean Girls the Musical is now streaming on Paramount Plus following its January theatrical release. It is, of course, an adaptation of the Broadway musical based on the 2004 film. Tina Fey's latest rendition of the high school comedy surpassed $100 million at the global box office after 6 weeks of release. It held the top spot at the domestic box office for 3 consecutive weeks following the January 12th release. Now, Mean Girls the Musical was originally slated to debut directly onto Paramount Plus. However, executives decided on giving it a theatrical release after enthusiastic test screenings. So there you go. It seems to be working.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we were flipping through Paramount Plus the other day, and we were like, "Dang, it hit pretty fast.
It did
hit pretty fast." So good for them, man. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions about it, but hey, they're starting conversations.
That's right.
Conversations. CBS has also renewed Tracker for a second season based on Jeffrey Deaver's novel, The Never Game. Now, of course, this series stars Justin Hartley as Coulter Shaw, the lone wolf survivalist who roams the country as a reward seeker, using his expert tracking skills to help private citizens and law enforcement solve mysteries while contending for his own fractured family. Now, the series is based on the best-selling novel The Never Game by Jeffrey Deaver. Of course, like I just said, the series premiere aired directly after the Super Bowl, which Nelson measured as the most-watched telecast of all time and reached 18.4 million viewers. Now, a number that Paramount Global says has now grown to 30 million across all platforms. So that's awesome. And 3 more episodes have aired since and continue to perform strongly without even a football lead-in. Episode 2 hit a 6.9 million viewers. Episode 3 hit a 7.1 million viewers, or actually, excuse me, a 7.4 million viewers. So, I mean, they're rocking and rolling, and it's good storytelling. I mean, it's very formulaic in the sense of the beginning episodes or the beginning seasons of Supernatural, but you see the overall story arc, and it's really good. Justin Hartley, he's slowly but surely becoming another man crush, so Keep going, man. Keep going. Keep taking your shirt off.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I've watched every episode and I'm enjoying it. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I was a fan of Justin when he was like freaking Green Arrow on Smallville way back in the day. And then he had Aquaman. Yeah, he was Aquaman, guys, for a little half a second. But anyway, I'm a big fan of his. I'm also a big fan of this. Bazinga! The Big Bang Theory stars Jim Parsons and Mayim Bialik will guest star on the series finale of CBS's Young Sheldon, reuniting as Sheldon Cooper and Amy Farrah Fowler. Now, details on the episode, which airs Thursday, May 16th, and how Parsons and Bialik will be incorporated into it remains, of course, a secret. Now, Parsons, of course, has been a part of Young Sheldon from the very beginning, serving as the show's narrator and as one of its executive producers. Bialik has also been heard on 2 episodes of Young Sheldon as a guest voiceover. But this reps the first time the duo has been seen on screen together since the May 2019 series finale of The Big Bang Theory, and it also marks the first on-camera appearance of their characters as grown-up Sheldon and Amy. There could be other chances for Parsons and Bialik to reunite in the future because another Big Bang Theory spinoff, as we've told you, is potentially in the works at Max from Jeffrey Lohr via his overall deal at Warner Brothers. Now, that one is believed to be an hour-long series featuring the mostly new cast with potential for known Big Bang stars to appear in guest spots. So we'll just kind of keep you updated on that. But it only made sense that we would see adult Sheldon at the end of this thing. I mean, it had to happen, so...
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Maybe it's like a whole storytelling of he's telling Amy, I believe that's her name. He's telling her like his life story or something like that. I think it's cool. I love that, and I love that they're so involved with their characters. They love that show.
Oh yeah.
Now the NCIS prequel series is in the work at CBS as cast Austin Stowell in the lead role as of a young Leroy Jethro Gibbs. The series titled NCIS Origins was originally ordered at CBS in January with plans to launch during the 2024-2025 broadcast season. Now, Mark Harmon, who played Gibbs for nearly 2 decades in the Mothership series, will serve as the show's narrator and executive producer. Only makes sense. NCIS Origin is set in 1991. That's cool. The official description states Gibbs starts his career as a newly minted special agent at the fledgling NIS camp Pendleton office, where he forges his place on a gritty ragtag team by NCIS legend Mike Franks. Now, David J. North and Gina Lucia Monreal co-wrote the pilot for NCIS Origins and serve as co-showrunners and executive producers on the series. Now, North and Monreal both wrote NCIS for 10 years, and North currently serving as co-showrunner on that show. Now, Mark Harmon executive produces along with his son, Sean Harmon. Now, of course, also CBS Studios produces. So this is cool, man. I think this is really exciting, and Emily's going to love this thing. I got to tell her right after we get off.
Well, I'm curious if this will lead to us seeing a young Harm from JAG, because I don't know if a lot of people remember, unless you're a hardcore fan of NCIS, but it was a spinoff of JAG. We first saw Jethro on JAG. So I wonder if we're going to cast a young Harm and see where that connection happened. That would be interesting. All right, let's jump over to NBC Universal, where Jack Black's Kung Fu Panda 4 made $3.8 million in previews at the box office from 4,035 North American theaters and is headed to the second biggest opening of the franchise with $52 million after $18.4 million Friday. Now that does, of course, include the $3.8 million from Thursday. Now the lack of family movies at the theaters should bode well for Kung Fu Panda 4, and this will be the first Kung Fu Panda to open that high. The first original one opened in 2008 with $60.2 million. So it's off to a good start. I love that.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. And I know this is really exciting as well because we're just super, I mean, we were on the fence about it, but now we're getting more excited. Troy Winbush has been cast in NBC's Suits LA pilot. Now, of course, this is the spinoff of USA Network's legal drama Suits. Now, Wimbush has been cast as Kevin, joining previously announced cast members Stephen Amell, Josh McDermott, and Lex Scott Davis. The description for the Wimbush character reads Ted. Ted's old friend and ex-partner Kevin is a former FBI agent who is now a private detective. He will be a recurring character if the pilot is picked up, which I'm sure it will be. But man, oh man, I'm just even more every week. I'm more excited about this thing.
Oh, yeah. Me too. And trust us, guys, it's going to get picked up. And this guy's an interesting character. I'm just going to tell you, he's in the very first scene of the show, and it just progresses more. It's going to be a really interesting backstory with a lot of these characters. Stay tuned. This one, I'm not so sure about. I don't think we need this one. NBC is developing Something Wicked, a multi-camera comedy starring June Diane Raphael and written and executive produced by Raphael and Dickinson, creator Elena Smith. Now, Something Wicked is described as a comedy with a Bewitched-type premise and an homage to TV sitcom classics. This just sounds like they're trying to rip off the success of Vision and Scarlet Witch. I'm sorry, but it's just, that's what it sounds like they're doing. It will examine the condition of modern adult womanhood and how, even with witchcraft, balancing everything is impossible. Now, Smith and Raphael write and executive produce. Universal Television, a division of Universal Studio Group, is the studio behind it. Now, Bewitched, if you're not old like me, and I'm not even this old, it was on even before I was fucking born. Well, I was born a little into it. Bewitched, which originally aired on ABC from 1964 to 1972, starred, of course, Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha Stevens, a witch who marries an ordinary mortal man, played by Dick York and later by Dick Sargent, and vows to lead the life of a typical suburban housewife. There have been several attempts at rebooting the classic sitcom during the past decades, most recently by Juliana Niera, who is currently developing a new take at Sony Television. I didn't like the movie with Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell. I thought that was a bad attempt at it, and I don't think this is going to go well. I just think it's one of these things you shouldn't try to do. Just saying.
Completely agree. Like we said earlier in another story, we're in the reboot culture, man. We're in the reboot culture. We need original ideas.
Yes.
But I mean, speaking of another reboot, heading over to Sony, I mean, Ming-Na Wen has joined the cast of Sony's new Karate Kid film. Previously announced cast members include American-born Chinese star Ben Wang in the title role, plus Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, who will reprise their characters from their previous entries in the franchise. Now, Joshua Jackson will also star, but much like the film's pilot, the details of Wen's role are being kept under wraps. Now, Sadie Stanley, one of the stars of the freeform teen drama Cruel Summer, has also joined the cast and will play a romantic lead opposite of Ben Wang. Now, the movie will be directed by Jonathan Instwell, the creator and director of Netflix's I Am Not Okay With This and The End of the Effing World. Peter Rabbit and, of course, writer Rob the Beer will pen the screenplay, while Karen Rosenfeld will produce. Sony Pictures will release the film in theaters on December 13th of 2024, which is honestly not that far away. So I'm surprised that we're just now getting news about this like a month ago. That's the earliest, I feel like.
Yeah, they're going to be turning this thing. They're going to be turning this thing around like a Hallmark movie, man. It's going to be quick and go. I hope that she's playing Joshua Jackson's love interest or wife.
Right.
Maybe they're the parents of Ben Wang's character or something. That would be kind of cool. Because, I mean, it can't be Jackie Chan as his parent or whatever. And, I mean, I don't know how they're doing Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio. But if Joshua Jackson and Ming-Na are a couple and they're the parents of this kid, I'm all in. I think it'll be great. This one, I'm still excited about this movie, too. Nicholas Braun, Tommy Dewey, and Nicholas Ponay have joined the cast of Sony Pictures' SNL 1975, which will be directed by Jason Reitman and based, of course, on the real-life behind-the-scenes accounts of the opening episode of Saturday Night Live. Now, Braun will play Jim Henson, Dewey will play Michael O'Donoghue, and this is the good one, Podney will play Billy Crystal. The original screenplay is by Reitman and Gil Kenan. The screenplay is based on an extensive series of interviews conducted by Reitman and Kenan with all of the living cast members, writers, and crew. Now, Reitman, Kenan, Jason Blumfeld, Erica Mills, and Peter Rice are producing this bad boy, and I'm pumped for it. I really am.
Yeah, I am too. It seems like a really storyteller, filmmaker's film.
For
so
sure.
Very excited about it. We're heading over to Lionsgate, where Sydney Sweeney and Paul Walter Hauser film Americana, which was one of the most prolific acquisition titles from last year's South by Southwest Festival, has finally seen its worldwide rights go to Lionsgate. Now, the Tony Toast written and directed movie follows local outsiders and outcasts in a small South Dakota town whose lives violently intertwine after a rare artifact falls onto the black market.
Yes.
Now, Americana also stars pop singer Halsey, Eric Dane, Zane McLaren, Gavin Maddox Bergman, no relation, Simon Rex, Derek Hinkey, Toby Huss, and Harriet Samson Harris. I think this is really cool that Sydney Sweeney is stepping more behind the camera. So, I mean, kudos to her. She's really becoming a force in Hollywood. I just heard about her, beginning of Euphoria, but now she's like everywhere. So, it's cool.
Yeah, she's getting it done. And this next story, it's so funny because we were literally talking on last week's episode about when would we start hearing about casting of some of the women in Michael's life. Well, we're getting some news. Michael, the splashy forthcoming biopic about Michael Jackson from director Antoine Fuqua, has added actor Laura Harrier in a key role. Harrier, of course, of BlacKkKlansman and Spider-Man Homecoming fame, will portray pioneering female music executive Suzanne DePasse in the film. Now, DePasse was a creative assistant to Motown founder Berry Gordy and is credited with convincing Gordy to sign the Jackson 5 to the label. DePasse costumed the world-famous family group in the early days and later played a critical role in bringing the band and other Motown sensations to live television. She worked closely with Michael Jackson from childhood, standing by him as a teacher and mentor and helping him navigate the music business. Lionsgate will release Michael, of course, on April 18th of 2025. Good, that sounds amazing. I love that they're just going deep into the history of it. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Well, Lionsgate female-driven John Wick spinoff, Ballerina, has added Dave Pasadena from the Umbrella Academy and Sharon Duncan Brewster from Sex Education to its cast amidst reshoots abroad. Now, word of casting comes at a newsy time in the world of John Wick as word has emerged of a Wick series in the works alongside an animated series adaptation of Twilight. Now, Ballerina watches as the young female assassin, who's played by Ana de Armas, of course, trained in the traditions of Ruska Roma, seeks revenge against the people who killed her family, as did Wick against those who done him wrong. Now, in the film's release between 2014 and 2019, Chad Stahelski working with ballerina Helmer Lynn Wiseman to shape new action sequences for the film. And then, of course, we want to add that the Chad Stahelski also just inked a new overall deal with Lionsgate. So he's rocking and rolling at the studio. He's obviously happy.
Hell yeah. Remember, guys, he's got the new Highlander film with Henry Cavill coming. That's his next one, so that's going to be badass. All right, let's jump over to Amazon MGM Studios, where another couple of badasses are all getting back together again. Ben Affleck, Johnny Bernthal, J.K. Simmons, and Cynthia Ade Robinson have apparently locked down deals to all return for The Accountant 2, the sequel to the Gavin O'Connor-directed action thriller The Accountant, on which Amazon MGM Studios has teamed with Affleck and Matt Damon's Artist Equity. Also set to return is O'Connor, who directs from a script penned by the original film screenwriter Bill Dubuque. Now, Artist Equity serves as the studio for the sequel and set the film up at Amazon MGM after acquiring the sequel rights from Warner Brothers. This will be the company's fourth project together after the chart-topping Jennifer Lopez doc, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, the Golden Globe-nominated sports marketing drama Air, and the upcoming Unstoppable, based on the true story of wrestler Anthony Robles. Now, Affleck and Damon are, of course, producing for Artist Equity. They are getting it done. I fucking love how they are just pulling it together. And The Accountant was a sleeper, guys. Not a lot of people heard about it originally, and then it became like this huge cult film, and I loved it, and I'm thrilled it's getting a sequel. I mean, anytime you get J.K. Simmons and Bernthal and Affleck together, that's fucking awesome, bro.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. And we want to tease next week. We have a guest from J-Lo's new film that's coming out on Amazon too, or it's already out now. But be sure to stay tuned for that. Here, you want to take this next one, and then it leads into the one after that, because I want the one after that.
Sure. That's fine. I got this. Well, it's only fair, because I've been watching on this, so this is a good one. Reacher Season 3 has added 4 new actors to its cast. Brian T., Johnny Berthold, Roberto Montesinos, and Daniel David Stewart will all join the cast of the Amazon Prime Video series. T will play Quinn, described as a physically imposing and intimidating lieutenant colonel whom Reacher investigated years ago. Berthold has been cast as Richard Beck, a college student who lost his mother when he was very young, and the son of businessman Zachary Beck, played by the recently cast Anthony Michael Hall. Montesinos will play Guillermo Ventura, a DEA agent on the verge of retirement and mentor father figure to Agent Susan Duffy. Now, rounding out the new cast members is Stewart, who will play Stephen Elliott, a rookie DEA agent who is fresh-faced and new to the job. Now, this season will be based on the best-selling novel series Jack Reacher by Lee Child. The show follows retired military police officer, if you didn't know, Jack Reacher. Season 3 is based on the 7th book in the series, Persuader. In it, Reacher goes undercover to rescue an informant held by a foe from his past. Maria Stein will also return for Season 3 as Frances Neagley alongside Hall and Sonia Cassidy. Reacher's second season was the #1 title on Prime Video worldwide across both series and movies in 2023 during the premiere weekend, according to the streamer. Now, the series' global audience grew 50% between seasons, and in the first 3 days after the second season's debut on December 15th of last year. This show is awesome, and I love how they recast every year. It's only Reacher and Neagley as the two consistents, and then they keep recasting, for the new stories, and I'm loving it, bro. He is fucking killing it. He's also, Alan Ritchson is just everywhere, and man, I hope they do cast him as Batman, because he'd be fucking badass as Batman. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree, because, I was just about to say, he's like blowing up social media, and like everybody's doing interviews with him, which is awesome because he's been in the industry for a long time. So that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Well, we're heading over to Netflix, and I'm super excited about this because they're finishing the story. That's right. Netflix has renewed Avatar: The Last Airbender for 2 more seasons. Now, the series, a live-action adaptation of the hit Nickelodeon series of the same name, will end with Season 3, which only makes sense because in the cartoon, it also ended in Season 3, so they're telling the whole story. Following the same structure as the animated version, Avatar is set in a world divided into 4 nations: Water Tribes, Earth Tribes, the Fire Nation, and the Air Nomads, that once lived in harmony with the Avatar, master of all 4 elements, keeping peace between them. But everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked and wiped out the Air Nomads. The first step taken by the Firebenders towards conquering the world. With the current incarnation of the Avatar yet to emerge, the world loses hope until Aang, who's played by Gordon Cormier, a younger airbender, awakens to take his rightful place as the airbender, the last Avatar. Now, alongside his friends Sokka and Katara, siblings and members of the Southern Water Tribe, Aang embarks on a quest to save the world and fight back against Fire Lord Ozai. Now, through Prince Zuko's is determined to capture him, while Sang Hung is also starring in this thing. But man, oh man, it's a great freaking story, and I hope everybody catches it while they can, because, like I said, 3 seasons.
Three and done, man. But I love it. I love that you're into it. I love that it's making a little resurgence, and it's awesome. Okay, now, this next story, guys, is not a joke. I repeat, it is not a joke. It is real. It is happening. Jake Paul is set to fight former heavyweight champion Iron Mike Tyson in a boxing match that will be live streamed on Netflix. Seriously. The bout is scheduled to take place on July 20th at my favorite place, AT&T Stadium in Texas, and will be available to all Netflix subscribers. Now, additional information, including the co-main event and the undercards, will be announced at a later date. This thing is being produced in a partnership between Netflix and Paul's and Nakisa Badarian's Most Valuable Promotions. This will not be the first time that Paul and Tyson have appeared on a boxing card together, though. If you remember, Paul fought in the co-main event on the pay-per-view that saw Tyson fight an exhibition match against Roy Jones Jr. back in 2020, which was Tyson's first boxing match since 2006. Paul defeated the former NBA player Nate Robinson via a knockout in the second round in what was Paul's second professional boxing match. Paul has racked up a pro record of 9 wins, 1 loss, with 6 knockouts since his debut in January of 2020. He most recently defeated Ryan Borland via TKO on March 2nd. Now, Tyson, of course, has a pro record of 50 wins, 6 losses, and 44 knockouts. This marks Netflix's latest venture into the world of live sports. The streaming giant most recently aired the Netflix Slam, a tennis matchup between Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz. Prior to that, they aired the golf event, the Netflix Cup. Now, Netflix is also set to become the weekly home of WWE's Monday Night Raw beginning next year, as we told you on a previous show. Now, I thought this was going to be an exhibition type thing, like Tyson's last couple fights were. And even though the one with Roy Jones Jr. went the distance, he was high. He admitted it. He took it okay. They did throw some real punches, but it wasn't Apparently, this one, he's all in. He has hired a world-famous trainer. He's actually training for it. I think if that is true, Paul is going down in minutes, if not seconds, because you do not want to get hit by a serious Mike Tyson. If he's coming into the ring not high and trained, look the fuck out, Paul. You're going down quick. I'm excited for this one. I hope that he does show up for real. I hope that he's going to be 59 years old when this fight takes place. So 58 or 59 years old. And if you see these training videos, he's fucking still... I wouldn't want to get fucking hit by him, 60 years old or not. I don't want to fucking get hit by him. I think if he's serious, which apparently he is, why go the route of hiring a world-famous trainer and actually be training if you weren't going to take it seriously? I think Paul might be hurt. I mean, like, legitimately hospitalized. My only advice is if I'm Paul, you take it seriously. In just in case Tyson's taking it seriously, you better be taking it seriously or you're gonna get killed. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, specifically that one. He's like completely stepped back from everything and has been taking boxing seriously. So that'll be interesting. I mean, we'll see how it goes because there's a 30-year age gap between both of them, and I mean, the promotion for this thing has been crazy since they announced it. I've seen so much social media publicity. So it's gonna be interesting, man. We'll see how it goes, and I hope it's
Tyson's
a good one.
Training boxers now. Did you know that?
Yeah.
He's like a trainer now. Like, I think he's serious again about it. And anybody who's old like me and remembers Iron Mike, the real Iron Mike, not the one who threw the Buster Douglas fight and all that fake bullshit, the real Iron Mike, you do not want to get in the ring with the real Iron Mike. I'm just saying.
No. You're lying. Well, Dick Wolf is making his first foray into business with Netflix with a pair of true crime docuseries. Now, the creator of Law & Order and Wolf Entertainment have partnered with Alfred Street Industries on both Homicide New York and Homicide Los Angeles. Both shows will consist of 5 episodes each, with each episode documenting a different murder case in each city. Now, the official description states that the show illuminates the stories of notorious murder cases as told by the people who knew or know them best, the detective and prosecutors who cracked them. Now, Homicide New York will debut on March 20th, while Homicide Los Angeles will bow at a later date this year. So that's very interesting, but I mean, nobody can tell these type of stories better than Dick Wolf. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. He's the only one who knows that the people are represented equally. Let's jump over and finish it up with Apple. Will we get the dun-dun? I hope so. Cameron Diaz is looking to make her comeback to acting a bit more permanent, with Apple Original Film announcing that she's in final negotiations to star alongside Jonah Hill and Keanu Reeves in the upcoming dark comedy Outcome. Now, directed by Hill from a script he co-wrote with Ezra Woods, Outcome will star Reeves as Reef, a damaged Hollywood star who must dive into the dark depths of his past to confront his demons and make amends after he is extorted with a mysterious video clip from his past. Details of Diaz's role, of course, have not been disclosed, but casting her is quite a coup because she's doing little stuff, and if you can get her, she's like, that's a big deal.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure. And I mean, there's so many different things happening in the entertainment industry. I mean, you saw recently Kirsten Dunst came out and was talking about how there's so limited amount of roles for women. She's not even old. I mean, she's just like in her early 40s. So it sucks, man. I mean, what the entertainment industry is now and the generation to being pushed, it's one of those crazy things. And I mean, we dive a little bit into that with our guest this week, Danny Ruhlmann. That's right, cinematographer from Anyone But You. He talks about, the commercial game and the transition from film to digital and how you take all of these different opportunities and get connected with all of these different type of people. I think everybody's going to love this interview because he's just a fun guy, man. He's just a fun guy. And when we recorded it, we talk about it, but he's literally the next day. Like, that's how we had to schedule it. Our first guest from Australia, and he knocked it out of the park.
He did, and he's just a whole lot of fun and passionate about what he does. It's throughout the entire interview, he just lights up when he talks about the process of what he does. This is one that you definitely are going to love, and you're going to walk away from feeling really good about the craft if this is what you're trying to do. He's a phenomenal guest.
Completely agree. Well, here he is.
Danny Ruhlmann, welcome inside the Crazy Ant Farm, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, of course. And we should say good morning, sir. You are the first guest that we have ever interviewed when it's the next day already. So that's a first for us.
It's morning for us here. We're one day ahead, and it's 10 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, well, all right. We love that. That's gonna be fun, and thank you for joining us this morning. I know Logan. He is just pumped. He's a camera guy on our crew, our film, and this is gonna be a fun one. But how we like to start it off is we always kind of want to do a little intro for the guests. I mean, for the listeners and everything about how you kind of got started in the industry, because we're always really curious about, was it something that you always saw yourself doing? Did you know it was always going to be a film career? Was that the dream? Did you kind of fall into it a little bit, just kind of random? How did you get started?
Well, I'll keep it short, but I started off with a passion for stills photography. I was given a camera when I was very young, and I just taught myself to learn about film and processing. And I just had this love for photography. I then managed one way or the other to get a job at a local television station, and I was there for a number of years and eventually became a news cameraman there. At the time, I was like 21 years old, and I was, a qualified news cameraman. I kind of felt I needed to explore the world a bit more, so I resigned. I was lucky enough to be accepted to go to film school in Los Angeles at the American Film Institute. And I spent a year or so there, and I had the best time learning from the masters. I made great friends. I got to understand how the industry works. And then I came back to Australia and initially worked as a camera assistant for a number of years. But, I was kind of missing my passion of, being behind the camera. So I then used my TV contacts, and I ended up shooting, lots of documentaries. I worked for 60 Minutes. I just kept working, kept shooting, to the point where I ended up shooting TV promos and then commercials internationally. And then the commercials led to more long form work. And that's how I ended up here shooting high-end TV, series and streaming projects as well as feature films.
Whew.
Oh, that is absolutely brilliant. And I love that too because, there's so many different examples of creatives like yourself and like us who always say, just do something. Get a camera in your hand, no matter what the budget is, no matter how many hours it is. Be sure to stay creative because continuing to flex that creative muscle to continue to learn about different angles, learn about lighting, learn about your ISO, all of these different things, they help you in the long run establish yourself. And then plus along the way, you come in contact with people who you feel like, are able to bring with you or you are able to bring on the next project or to utilize that contact to where maybe they're on something and they think of you because there's another position that is needed to be filled. So it's all of these different types of things that is very influential in your craft, right? And how you continue moving forward. And it's all about the connectability and being a likable person too, because I mean, if you come off kind of as an asshole, nobody's really going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
So I mean, talk about that a little bit, utilizing your contacts in the sense of, being a young up and comer who, is making connections through either the commercial game or through the television game. How do you utilize those contacts to bring you forth to that next process? Because a little bit of a story for us, that's how we started working together. We started utilizing our contacts in the television game to make, hey, I like your house, so let's shoot in your house or like those type of things. So how do you do that in your industry or in your neck of the woods?
No, I think that's a really good point, and it's important for young filmmakers to understand that it's part of the training process. When I was young and trying to build up my reel to present to commercial companies, I had to scrape together. I had to beg for short ends. I had to go to the lab and ask them to process my film for nothing. I had to. It's so much easier these days. You can get an SLR camera or even an iPhone. You can cut it on your computer. You can compose the sound, the music. It's like, the only thing that's stopping you is your own motivation now.
Yeah.
It was difficult at the time, but in the process, I think of going through this, you meet like-minded people. My big thing was a friend of mine that was a television editor, and he wanted to be a director. I was a TV cameraman. I wanted to be a cinematographer. So we combined our resources, and I took care of all the camera stuff. He took care of all the post-production, and we were making projects together that way. And it was only just the two of us, and then we kind of scraped together a few other people to help us. And, that was, I can say without a doubt, doing those projects helped me get my commercial career running. And then it gets kind of easier in a way. You've got other people paying the bills.
Right.
You've got support. You've got a great crew around you. It does get easier. But it's all about just creating, becoming part of a filmmaking community, reaching out to like-minded filmmakers, and even if they're not directly involved in that particular field, you might be a stills photographer, but you can pick up an SLR, you can learn how to shoot motion picture. It's kind of it's really up to the individuals and how they can initially network to get like-minded people together, and then just take it further, and you end up with an end result that can help you get some, paying jobs. And it also teaches you how to communicate on set, how to build those contacts, how to retain those contacts, which is exactly what you need when you're working professionally and later in your career. It's all about nurturing the contacts that you've made, nurturing new contacts, I'm still networking today.
Oh yeah.
It's part of the job.
Well,
Yeah.
a couple of things. There's so much to unpack right there. I want to go back just a little bit because the one thing that you said that really jumped right as you said it, and I think it's so critically important, that you were 21 and you said, I got to go explore the world. There's more out there. I got to do it. I think it's so important for young people to understand that that's the time to do it when you're in your 20s, when you're like, wait, don't lock down. I think there's so much societal expectation put on people about you have to have this at this age and you have to be this by this age or this by. Man, the 20s is when you figure it out. That's when you get out there and try everything. So to take the leap at 21 and know that I got to get out there, I got to see what I want to do, I got to find out what else is out in the world. I thought that everybody, priceless advice for everybody out there trying to figure it out. That's the first thing. Take the leap and get out of your comfort zone. And then the other that I wanted to follow up on is what you were saying about it's one thing to do the networking, right? You got to network, you got to get there, you got to know this person, that person, and know how to use them and get where you want to go. But it's also about fostering the relationship and maintaining those relationships, because it isn't just about a one and done, or it's maintaining and fostering those relationships, because as we said, it is a really small community, and if you build a relationship with these people, that's going to be something that continues over the years, and that's going to lead to this, to this, to this, to this. And I think that's so critically important for the people trying to break into the industry. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think a lot of times that they don't really teach that, especially if you don't go to film school or nobody teaches you about the networking part of it, the importance of building the community part of it, right? And that's when you struggle, is when you don't have those like-minded people and that community around you. And so I just love that you brought that up. So do you find yourself, when you were working as the AC, and are you under that mindset of when you're on a set and you know, hey, I know I can do that. I know I can do this. Do you start like, hey man, can I get behind the camera? Can I see what you're doing here? Can I ask this? Can I ask that? Do you find yourself in those like, hey, do you mind if I too? Because I think, right, if you don't have an ego and you know that there's always more to learn, there's always more that you can grow with, and if you ask questions and you find like-minded people that are willing to answer and willing to say, sure, come on over here, jump behind the camera. Do you find yourself in that position? And as a cinematographer, are you like that? Are you willing to give advice to somebody who might have the courage to ask you, can I look behind the camera and see what you're doing?
Look, absolutely. I mean, work with a lot of ACs on every job. There are different crews, different ACs from different countries. The ones that stand out are the ones that going to pull you aside, in the lunch break, or want to have a conversation about, things. And, you can tell, their brain is ticking over. They're watching, they're observing, they're learning. It's not just a job and they're going through the motions. They're interested. And then I'm interested in what they're doing. Like an example, my daughter is an actress. Her boyfriend is a filmmaker. I spent a lot of time speaking with him and with her about what's relevant,
Sure.
today, these days, from a music point of view, from the films that they're watching. It's kind of like important for me to ask those questions of them, as important as it is for them to ask questions from me. We're coming from a different perspective, but, it's all part of communicating, sharing ideas, and kind of letting the craft evolve. Getting back to what you were saying previously as well, what also came to mind when we were talking about networking, what I found very interesting, and I think up-and-coming people should remember this, there are often executive producers that I work with today who I remember were receptionists at production companies, or couriers, or junior runners, or whatever, and I always, I like everyone, I chat to people, and they often say, oh, you were so nice to me in those days, and they're the ones employing me today. So I think it's important to treat everyone with respect, irrespective of, their age and their position. They may be able to help you in the future, but it's just part of the film. We're all part of that filmmaking community.
Oh,
And I think that's really important to remember.
Love
Yeah,
that.
most definitely. And I mean, something else too that I feel like not a lot of creatives talk about is, having a full-fledged career, like making commercials. Because one of our favorite guests that we've had on the show, his name is Brent Bailey. And this man has made a living off of being the spokesperson for
Shell.
Shell and
Yep.
the spokesperson for, different car rental companies and different things like that, to where, you're making a very sustainable living just doing this. So, I mean, talk
Mm.
about that a little bit too, because, I feel like some people neglect that side of the entertainment industry because they feel like it's beneath them, so to speak. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that, and how do you, pick and choose what type of job that you continue to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about the industry is that as a cinematographer, you can go from news, documentaries, reality TV, commercials, feature films, whatever. Like there's a lot of opportunities there, and I've always looked at my career as a marathon. Like I'm not interested in doing anything else. So when my children were both young, I was hesitant to commit to projects that took me away from home for a
Mm.
long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That was my motivating factor. And I ended up becoming a very successful cinematographer shooting primarily car commercials. So you do get, even within commercials, you get pigeonholed. You do food or you do cars or whatever. And I traveled the world shooting car commercials. And it was fantastic. I had a great time. I earned a very good living. But what was most interesting is that, every week or every 2 weeks, I'm working with a different director
Right.
who has a different vision, often with different equipment, with a different crew, or maybe, obviously different locations. So you're constantly honing your craft. You're developing the skills of communication and working with different directors, but you also have access to the latest equipment um, and exposure to that. So also, a lot of the directors who are doing big things, like for example, someone like Ridley Scott, he's created a whole career of commercials as well. So the
Exactly.
Jonathan Glazer, like there are amazing directors who have come from careers in commercials and moved into feature films, and that can happen for cinematographers as well. And it's fun shooting commercials. It just varies from week to week, and I really enjoy it.
Well, I liken that because you said you use the term honing your skills. So I liken like when you take on commercial projects, you're doing that, or you, like as you said, a documentary or a short form subject as opposed to a feature length or a series, right? I liken that to a screen actor that goes and does stage work. They say that that's their school. That's how they hone the craft. That's how they stay on top of the game, because it's a skill that you have to continuously keep using or it gets old, it gets rusty, and you got to. So I liken that to what you just said about, hey, I'm going to jump on this commercial because it's a different location with a different camera and different setup, and I get to learn some stuff, and I get to keep learning and growing and honing my craft. I love that idea of thinking that way and checking the ego at the door, because like you said, there's no job too small. It's you're learning, you're growing, you're sustaining, and you're doing what you love to do. How is that ever a bad thing? So the people that have that ego and are like, I don't want to do that, it's like, well, maybe you're not going to do anything if you keep thinking like that.
Well, every commercial is different as well. Some directors are very much visual directors, and they have a very clear visual idea. Others are more interested in performance, and they leave the visuals, aside. Every job is completely different, and as most films are different, and the dynamics. But with commercials, it changes often, from week to week almost.
Without doubt. I have to ask because I'm an old school guy. I know Logan, me and Logan, we have a little bit of an age gap between us. So we
If you
bring
couldn't
both
tell. If
kind
you
of
couldn't tell.
worlds into it, right? Yeah. When I first started, it was film. I mean, it wasn't digital. We weren't shooting on video. I was going reel to reel when I was editing, and it was like old school. And when it first started making the conversion to digital, and it was all going to video, and it was going to I was like, wait a minute, I'm not sure I like this. I don't like, you can't get this and you can't get that, and it doesn't look this and it doesn't look that. Are you an old school guy? Did you have to go through that transition period, and were you okay with that transition period, or were you like, I want to shoot on film, I just want to shoot on film? Talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of the old school guys at first were like, do we want to do this whole video thing? You're never going to get what you get on film, kind of. Christopher Nolan, for example, just film. It's got to be film. I'm not going to shoot on anything else. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, I felt the same way. I mean, initially I was hesitant to move into the digital world, only because I found that there was unrealistic expectations of what digital cameras could do.
Yep.
I would speak with directors or producers, and they were saying, well, if you're shooting, we could shoot this all on the Canon 5D. We don't need to get we don't need lighting, we don't need grips. It's like and it's like, yes, you can shoot and you can get an image, but it took a while for people to understand that if you wanted image quality, and the filmmaking process was still the same. And now I feel like it's kind of irrelevant whether I'm shooting digital or film. The approach is the same, the language is the same, and it was a bit of a transition period. I think for everyone, for directors, for producers, everyone had to kind of learn what digital filmmaking was about and what the parameters were, and now the digital cameras are so good, and it's such a good way to work. I love shooting with the latest cameras, and I mean, I'm not opposed to shooting film. I haven't shot film for a couple of years now. There is a beauty about the whole film process that is magical. But in saying that, I think it's the digital has evolved in such a way that those images are pretty magical as well.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful experience, especially when you're on like a beautiful location to shoot, some amazing things you get to see, especially the ocean that is surrounding Australia, right? And I mean, and anyone but you were able to get a lot of shots on the beach. And I mean, I followed you before coming on and doing this interview, and your Instagram is filled with some beautiful shots, especially some takeaways, with yourself and Glenn Powell. I thought that was hilarious, and Sydney Sweeney walking on the beach. But I mean, let's talk about that film a little bit, because it's from Sony. So how did you get involved with this project? Did you have a representative come over and recruit you, or did you find it, or how did that go about?
So, I'm living in Australia at the moment. I have representation. I have an agent in Los Angeles. This project was floating around. The director, Will Gluck, is a huge fan of shooting in Australia, and he'd shot the 2 Peter Rabbit films in Australia prior to this one. So the production, I knew the executive producer, and she was very keen to use an Australian cinematographer. But then I understand initially that Sony and that the director wanted to bring someone, a cinematographer from the States. So my agent in America was kind of making contact with the production people and trying to sell me from that end. And then the executive producer was selling me from this end. And I ended up meeting with the director when he was here on a scout. And it just got to the point where I think they were having problems securing the person who was, being considered. And ultimately, I got the job. So, based on the fact that I have worked in America, I have lived in the States, so I have an American sort of work experience background, and I think that really helped me as well.
Yeah, I mean that so that just goes. again, it's you never know how it's going to come together, right? Yeah, I love that. That's the other beauty of our industry. You just never know. You're in the right spot at the right time, or you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and you
Yeah.
still end up getting it, right? And
Yeah.
but I think if you're good, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You have a reputation. People know you, and you're like, no, this guy shoots in Australia. He lives in Australia. If we're having a problem, this is the guy that we can go to, and he's going to get it done for us, kind of a thing. So when you build that reputation, they trust that you're able to do the job and get it done. And I think, and thank goodness it worked out the way it did, because it's absolutely stunning the way it was shot. Like Logan said, the outdoor stuff just. Talk about your process a little bit, because I'm really curious about the process, because so often we're hearing that people they want to shoot with all natural light, and they don't want to use lighting, and they don't want to use. What is your thought process on natural light versus using lighting on a scene, and do you have a specific approach when you are shooting outside or at certain times of day?
Well, specifically with this film, because it's a rom-com, the director was very, very keen for me to have a look at a bunch of reference films. And I won't mention their titles, because after watching those films, he said, I want this film to look nothing like those films. Because rom-coms have a particular, they can have a particular kind of style and look that often is maybe a little bit artificial.
Right.
So what I try and do is, especially for this film, I didn't want it to feel artificial, but I also wanted to protect the actors from the harsh Australian light. And the light here in summer the sun's very high, it's very strong, it's not particularly flattering. So my plan was to either shoot everything backlit if I had to, or use big scrims over the top of the actors, and then just let the background be natural and do its own thing. So, that way I felt like it was a nice combination of having finessing the foreground and the actors so that they look like movie stars, but then put them in an environment that looks natural and real rather than like artificial and like could be a blue screen or whatever.
Yep.
So thankfully, the cameras have this. I shot with the Alexa LF, the large format Alexa, and it had incredible latitude from exposure and the contrast, the dynamic range is incredible. So I can scrim the actors and still retain all the information in the background, and it felt like a nice combination to me. That occurred in the interiors as well. Basically, wherever I went, I always wanted to protect the actors, make them look as good as possible, make the audience kind of fall in love with them, but then at the same time, retain that natural environment. That being said, it's easier to do as you get closer and closer in a close-up or in a mid-shot. But wide shots, then they have to be scheduled in such a way where you're kind of just utilizing the lower light in the morning, and hopefully establish a look that's backlit, that looks good. And then when you go in, you can kind of finesse that lighting a little bit more.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too. And I love how you kept saying, tried to make it look as unartificial as possible, because, I feel like when filmmakers show Australia or Sydney, it is very cookie cutter. A lot of the same stuff. I mean, a lot of the, the Sydney Opera House. But I mean, of course, you had that, but then you also had street perspectives, which I thought was very interesting, because I had never seen a film in Australia to where they did show you walking through town. They did show you walking down the street and just getting a little bit more vibes from the community and who lives there and the people. And I thought that was brilliant in the sense of, you're getting to learn about different cultures without just learning about the big stuff that we all already know and love.
Yeah.
So to be able to have that dynamic, I felt like was a very interesting take, especially in a rom-com, like
Yeah.
you said, because I mean, I felt like this rom-com was so different than any other one. I mean,
Yeah.
myself and my fiance, we went and both saw the film 3 times because we just loved it so much in the
Oh,
theaters.
good. The director, Will, was very, he's very keen on keeping things real. Like
Mm,
he doesn't like green screen or any sort of thing artificial. So it was all about capturing real locations, putting those actors in the street, putting them in, like in real locations and
hmm
just trying to capture those, and just taking away from that artificial rom-com sort of world. And I think I'm glad you noticed that because that was really an important part. Even the scenes where they get rescued in the harbor. They get pulled up
Yeah,
into the helicopter, and then we're in a helicopter. We're in a helicopter for real. We're flying
yeah.
around at night for real because we wanted it to be real rather than put a helicopter in the studio and kind of try and make it look real.
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
exactly. That was probably my favorite scene in the whole entire film. Obviously, because of the dialogue and what that scene actually means to them as characters. But I
Yeah.
mean, the way you shot it and the way that the strobe lights were going back and forth on their faces when they're getting rescued. And yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought that looked immaculate. So, I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
kudos to that. And I mean, as a cinematographer myself, I look up to people like you. So I really appreciate, you showing your artistic abilities in these different types of situations because,
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
thank you for saying that. But we got very lucky in that situation because one of our production people found, like, we shot the wide shots in the harbor at night
Hmm.
for real, with the actors swimming at 4 o'clock in the morning through the
That's
harbor.
crazy.
They were fantastic. But then we found a helicopter rescue training facility here in
Oh.
Sydney,
Mm.
Mm.
at one of our smaller airports where they have like they have a helicopter they dump into the water and they create waves and helicopter noise and they train people to survive a helicopter crash and they
Wow.
train the people to dive in and save them. And we went into this facility, and we used that as our kind of studio for the scenes, the closer shots of
Yeah.
them when they're sitting on the buoy in front of the opera house, and then when the searchlight hits them and pulls them up, all that was done within this artificial environment. And it was the only time we went into the studio. Um, so it was,
That's really
I
cool.
think that all worked together pretty well.
Very. And so then now let's bouncing from the other side where Logan says he's the visual guy and I'm the actor guy. I have to say, I think that the relationship between the director and the cinematographer is so critically important. And I really love the shots where you set it up to where you can feel what the characters are feeling. You're in that. And that's a very specific mix between wide shots and close shots and how you're framing them and how for the audience to feel it without ever realizing that why are they feeling it, right? And so anytime I see a director and a cinematographer able to capture that, like, holy crap, I'm nervous right now. Why am I nervous? You don't even know why you're nervous, but it's because the way the shot just moved and you feel like you're there with them.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that you did a brilliant job with that. So talk a little bit about that too, about how you set up your dynamic and your relationship between you and the director. Because I think it's so critically important for the two to be on the same page with what they visually see, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dynamic, like this director, Will Gluck, he's brilliant. He's an incredible filmmaker. He's a very smart guy. So, when I met him at first, it was just about trying to get inside of his head and understand, how he sees these characters developing. Because a film, you need to have that character development. You need to propel the story forward. And the actors obviously do that. And it's my job to help sell that idea visually. I mean, what he wanted to do, and I think it worked very well, is combine, connect the actors together by shooting over their shoulders and just always trying and see that connection between the two. Even if you're shooting a close up of Glenn, we're always like over Sydney Sweeney's shoulder, just so
Right.
they're always like connected. But sometimes that over the shoulder is a little bit wider, so they're both in shot, but they're further apart. So we played a lot with that. Also uses of wider lenses, longer lenses, just to help isolate them from the background a bit more. The longer lens with less depth of field will really separate them from the background, so that what they're saying becomes so much more powerful, more relevant. There's very little background image to kind of distract from the words. It's kind of things like that. I mean, sometimes we wanted the lighting to be moodier in the background, so it would just fall off completely. Or other times, we could kind of lift the mood with the lighting and make it feel sunnier and warmer and friendlier, and that would reflect what the actors were saying. So a combination of lenses and camera position and lighting, from my perspective, was what I was using to help propel that story.
Brilliant.
But that a lot of that also, I mean, we speak about it in pre-production, and we go into it with a plan. The specifics of the plan often changes once the actors get in the room and the director, when you look at the location and they have some ideas, and it kind of evolves.
Right.
So it's good to have a plan, but it's also important to be able to deviate from that plan and be a bit more spontaneous,
And that's where that news cameraman experience comes in.
Yeah, exactly. You may end up being in a position where the sun's blasting through the window, and it's like, wow, that's perfect. We'll put them next to the window, and they can get the sun, and it's bleeding beautifully. It's backlighting their hair. It's like it's happening naturally. Sometimes you like that, and sometimes you want to avoid it. It's good just to stay open to to the changes that happen prior to the shoot.
Yeah, staying open to all the different possibilities. And I know Dustin doesn't want to ask this question, so I will. I will do it. I'm just wondering, how many takes did it take for you to get that perfect shot of that prosthetic with the sand and the penis? Like, I'm just wondering. That was like, whoa, buddy. I never even imagined that could happen. But then you, my friend, you and Mr. Gluck, you put that into my head and terrified me from ever going swimming again.
Well, I want to confirm it was a prosthetic.
That's good. That's good.
But our actor did have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we only, we didn't have to shoot it too many times. The actor was very comfortable presenting his prosthetic in the right way. What was fun about that scene, I think, was just the kind of embrace at the end, when it's a very Australian thing to do, but to do it when you're naked, it's like, Glenn Powell's reaction was like pretty spot on, I think.
Now, what type conversation was that about? What size lens are we going to have to use? How are we approaching that one?
We wanted to be sort of. We didn't want to make too big a deal out of it and be inappropriate in regards to our conversations about this prosthetic penis.
Oh, my goodness.
We just tried to be professional, and we shot it with a couple of different sizes. And
That's fantastic.
I love that, though, man. I love that. That's so freaking great. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show and getting a little crazy with us and talking about this film. Like we said, we loved it and saw it in theaters multiple times. It was probably one of the only movies in recent years, to be honest, that I've seen in the theaters multiple times, and like kept going back with different friend groups who haven't seen it and be like, oh, I'll go watch it again. Of course. But it's all about social media right now, and your Instagram is awesome. So I definitely want to direct people your way. So where can people follow you?
If they just find me on Danny-Ruhlmann, Ruhlmann, and you can find me there.
Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And you are always working. So do you have any projects coming up that you're very excited about?
I don't have anything locked in at the moment. I've been enjoying just watching the success of Anyone But You.
There you go.
Um, I'm hoping that there'll be something soon, but whether that happens here in Australia or overseas, I'm not sure at this point. I'm sure I'll be working before long.
No doubt about it, because just in this interview, you can see the passion when you talk about it and how you feel about it. Like you said way back at the beginning, to bring it full circle, it's not just a job for you getting the paycheck. It's what you love to do and you're passionate about it. So yeah, the work will be there always. Man, like Logan said, just open invite anytime you want to come back. This is such a fascinating conversation to hear the process and to see how someone approaches the art and pulls off what they do. You know, it's always amazing to talk to people behind the camera and to see how it gets done. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation. And anytime you want me to come back, I'm happy to continue with my perspective on things.
Fantastic.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, like we said, we know you are about to start your day as we are finishing our day. So that's very awesome. You're actually a first person who we have ever interviewed from Australia. So that's really cool as well. So you're checking off a whole bunch of boxes for us. But have a great rest of your day. Thank you again so much. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Oh boy, talk about an informative interview, man. I mean, I think this is our first below the line person. Well, this is our second because technically Charles from a couple weeks ago, but he also acts. But this is our first strictly below the line person, behind the scene camera,
Yeah.
behind the camera person, of 2024. And I mean, what an amazing conversation from a huge movie out right now.
Yeah, and I really like. You can see, like I told him, the passion in his eyes when he's talking about it, right? And the idea that he loves to talk about it and he's willing to share what he knows and wants to ask questions about what he doesn't know and take chances and do these things. He's the perfect kind of guy that you want to be on a set with, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing that I really, really like that he said is when he said, my number one goal was to protect the talent. How often do you hear that he's worried about, because so many directors will be like, I want this shot. And he's like, the sun is going to beat down on them unbearably. We
Yeah,
can't
it's
do
gonna be
that. We
rough.
got to do this. So to have a guy that's so concerned about taking care of the people and getting the shot, like I said, I can't imagine a better guy to probably be on a set with, working with. I mean, it's just amazing. So yeah, so much fun, man. I love talking to passionate people.
I know. What a great conversation. What a great conversation. From the land down under, we thank you again, Danny, for coming on the show. All right. Now it is time for our top 5 segment. And this week it's favorite boxing movies.
Yes.
That's right. We threw out the idea last week and we thought it was such a great one. And I mean, there's so many different ones that I haven't seen personally, that I still want to see. Like specifically, the one that I really want to see more than any other one was that one with Miles Teller. I forget what it's called.
The
but
one
I
about
just feel
Manny,
like-
yeah,
Yeah,
after the car
yeah.
accident and trying to make the
Yeah.
comeback. That dude, that one is hardcore good. It is
Yeah.
really, really good. Miles Teller impressed the shit out of me in that movie. That was really good.
You know, him, like so many different people are like the backbone of the entertainment industry, and they're the new ones, right? They're gonna
Yeah.
be the Leonardo DiCaprios and all of these different people who carry the industry for so long. So I'm really excited to see, what these different type of people do. But
Put that
number
one on
5
your
for
list,
me.
Sorry.
Huh?
I said put that one on your list. It's well
No,
worth
I
the
need
watch.
to.
It's well, and honorable mention. Just it's on my list.
Oh
Honorable
yeah, got to. But number 5 for me goes to The Survivor. This one came out in 2021 and wasn't really talked about, to be honest. It was kind of during pandemic time, so theaters were a little shut down, and it was exclusively on Max, formerly known as HBO Max.
Yes.
But it is about Harry Haft, who was a boxer who fought against his peers in a concentration camp. And it's wild. Ben Foster is in this thing, and he was freaking phenomenal, right? I mean, the way that he was able to turn into Harry Haft, I think was insane because anytime you have anything to do with World War II and being Jewish and the aftermath and the PTSD and you have to carry a lot of weight with you. But he likes these type of roles. He was also in that one movie with Will Smith, the slavery movie.
Yeah, yeah.
But he loves to be engulfed in these type of characters. But it was so cool because you bounced around a lot. You dealt a lot with PTSD and then went to that specific moment where he gained the PTSD, what inhabited that type of emotion. It's hard to watch sometimes, but like we always say, the best form of education is through entertainment, and
Yep.
that's definitely what this film did. So number 5 for me, The Survivor on Max. Be sure to check that one out.
Yes, that's a good one. My number 5 is it's has the distinction of being the very first film to make me cry. Very first one. It is The Champ with very, very young Ricky Schroeder, with John Voight, Faye Dunaway. The cast is phenomenal, but this is about an ex-boxing champion who went down the dark path, ended up being an alcoholic and gambling problem, and at a certain point his ex-wife comes back, says, "Hey, you got a kid." Oh shit. And so he tries to make amends. He tries to get back, and so he comes back and he starts fighting again. But time has taken its toll, the alcoholism and the rough life, and it's all taken its toll, and he ends up, spoiler alert, but he gets the fight and he dies at the end of it. He ends up dying. And the end scene is just it's Ricky Schroeder, he's in the locker room with his dad, and he can't process that his dad is dead, and he's on the table, and he's just and he's come on, champ, wake up, champ, wake up, champ, I need you, and he's crying, and he's like begging his dad to wake up, not realizing that he's dead, and his trainer's like, come on, son, he's gone, and he's like, wake up, champ, I need you, champ, and holy shit. If you can watch this film and that end scene and not cry, you're not human. I don't even know. Eventually Faye Dunaway comes in, the mom, and she's like, she consoles him, and he breaks down and realizes dad's not coming back. It's such a good movie about a man who goes down the dark path and tries to find redemption. So it's a boxing movie, and there's a lot of great boxing stuff in it, but it's more of a drama about redemption and trying to come back from a bad path. It's a brilliant movie. It is a very, it's before John Voight and Ricky Schroeder kind of went off on their wacko paths. This is still when they were still but I highly recommend it. My number 5, The Champ. And it was right after my dad died, just a little bit after my dad died, which is why I think it gets to me, which is why when the scene with, come on, champ, wake up, champ, it gets to me. Still does. I can't watch it without crying. Just saying. Can't do it.
Makes sense. That one I haven't seen yet. So yeah, that one's definitely on the list.
It's a good one.
It was definitely on the list. One I just recently watched within the last 2 years, and it was honestly for a top 5 segment. I think it was top 5 Clint Eastwood films.
Yeah.
I'm talking about $1 Million Baby with Hilary Swank, Morgan Freeman, Anthony Mackie, Mike Coulter, and everybody else in Hollywood, basically.
Yeah.
But I love this film because, it's all about, society telling you that you can't do something, and then you prove everybody wrong. You kick that door down, you stick the middle finger in everybody's face and say, no, this is my life, and I'm going to live it the way I want to. And I just felt like, it was such a beautiful thing to be able to overcome all the negativities and all the naysayers in this story, to be able to prevail, to become someone who Hilary Swank's character, Maggie Fitzgerald, is happy with, right? So it was a beautiful story. I always hate when they end the way that one ended, though. I mean, it's the same as that one Anne Hathaway movie
Yep.
that Emily loves called One Day, and they actually just turned that into a television show. Spoiler alert, she gets hit by a fucking bus. It's so stupid. I hate when movies end like that. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna fall and break my neck. Like,
Yes.
Jesus Christ. It's so, ugh. But anyway, yes, my number four, $1 Million Baby, because you defy all the odds. You know, you overcome all the naysayers, even people who are in your corner. You have to prove them wrong.
Yep.
So it's a beautiful film about that. If you ever need some re-encouragement, watch $1 Million Baby. So
Hell
yeah, number
yes.
four for me, $1 Million Baby.
So my number four has a lot of those same themes about society putting expectations on you and what you should be doing and how you should be living your life and where you should be going. And my number four is Creed. And it's all about Adonis trying to come out from the shadow of Apollo and live his own life and do his own thing. Much to the chagrin of his family. And he's trying to make a name for himself and not be the what his dad was, or trying to just, and oddly reaches out to the guy that helped his dad and kind of, so it's, while it's the start of the Creed franchise, it's also the end of the Rocky franchise. Even though they're continuing this, they keep saying that this is the Rocky franchise, but technically this is the end of Rocky's story and the start of Creed's story. I thought it was brilliantly done. Yeah, you know, it's a nice tribute to, you know, where's Adrian? Where's Rocky Jr.? Where's Rocky at in life? What's going on with Rocky? He kind of helps Adonis. He trains him. He gets him on the right path. He sets him straight, kind of a thing, or whatever. But it's a really good character study of, like I said, trying to come out of the shadow of somebody that's all you're known for, and that's where everybody expects you to be and how to be and who you are, and trying to overcome that. And I really think, obviously, any of the Rocky movies, there's always amazing fighting scenes, right? The choreograph and everything is just, but it's the story that always makes these films so good. And this is, as always, so well written. It's so well directed. And obviously, amazing performances. You know, Michael B. Jordan and just it's amazing. It's a really good story, and if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen any of the Creed franchise, I highly recommend that you do. And obviously, start with this one. And you might want to watch all the Rocky movies before you watch this one too, so that you have a context of the backstory that leads into this. But my number four, Creed. It's just I love the continuation of the story.
It is good. It is good. Yeah, I feel like, you know, Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler do an amazing job.
Oh, without
So,
doubt.
I know I need to catch up on the third one. I haven't watched that one yet. But number three for me, since we're talking about thirds, it goes to The Fighter. We talked about this one last week. Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Melissa Leo, and everybody else. Again, in Hollywood, Oscar-winning film, The Fighter, about Mickey Ward and his rise to fame. Basically,
Yes.
the rise and fall, and the family dynamic of what was. But you know, I just feel like what they were able to do in this film to make it so special, especially with the rewatch value. Like, I mean, it's let's see, how long is it? Because it's nothing. Yeah, it's an hour and 56 minutes. So you would normally feel like anything over 2 hours can get a little dicey. Like, are they telling the story too much? And with it technically being a biopic, you never really know how it's going to go.
Yep.
But I think they did very good, very well, very exceptional with this film, because it's just one of those where you're along for the journey in somebody's life that you know will prevail, because he's very consistent about what he wants in life. No matter what the family dynamic is, no matter what the drama is, he knows he has to make himself happy, and he has to do this for himself and not anyone else in his family. But it's a beautiful film. It's definitely worth the watch. The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg. Be sure to check that out.
Yes. My number three, Had to be on the list. It had to be. There's no way it couldn't be on the list. My number 3 is Rocky, the first Rocky. This is the epitome of the underdog story. Like a guy that's down and out that nobody believes in, but he believes in himself, and he earns the chance at the title. And it's again, it comes down to, it's basically, if you've watched this latest documentary about Sylvester Stallone, he goes into it. It's basically him at that time of his life. He's down and out. He's got no money. He's not sure if he's gonna even be around much long. And all of a sudden, he gets this movie, Lords of Flatbush. He meets Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler sees this script and helps him out, brings it to ABC at the time, and that's how it all kind of happened for it. How Rocky got found and made, but this is an amazing story of an underdog guy who gets a shot at the title, the heavyweight title. And it's an amazing story of an underdog who's a phenomenal writer. And we don't know if he can act or not, but he's an amazing writer. And he has this script. And it's like, you're telling me what? I'm going up against all of these filmmakers, and I'm going to make this movie, and it's going to be... So it's real life emulating movie, and it's just, I love that story aspect of it. And it's a love story with Adrian. It's the underdog story. It deals with racism. It deals with, there's so many different aspects of what this story deals with of real life. So escape from the boxing for a moment. By the way, it's one of the most brutal boxing fight scenes ever, when they're just pummeling each other. It's absolutely brilliant. But it's the story. Again, a man on a path to prove himself to the world that he's worthy. I guess that's what it's really about, right? I'm worth something to somebody. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of what I think I deserve, kind of a thing. It's finding your self-worth and then proving it to the world. And that's what Rocky stands for. That's what Rocky is. And so my number 3, man, Rocky. It's
so good.
Yeah, man.
I love that. Yeah, I remember watching it for the first time, and it's like, because I just watched The Exorcist for the first time, and it's like one of those things where you just don't forget. Right?
No, yeah,
it's one of those that you never forget. Never forget. Number 2 for me goes to Southpaw. That's right. I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal doesn't necessarily get enough credit for how good of an actor he is. I feel like, people just kind of throw him to the wayside, kind of like I feel like Colin Farrell's in this same category. Heath Ledger before Joker was kind of in the same category.
Yeah.
Kind of like, it's the pretty boys, don't really act, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But they're actually phenomenal actors. Go back and watch The Covenant recently, a very epic war film, and he blows it out of the park. But anyway, we're talking about Southpaw. I think this is a great redemption story because, when you get all the fame, you get all the glory, you feel like you're on top of the world, and then that one devastating instance happens to where you fall off your rocker, to where,
Yes.
you don't necessarily feel like where you're at anymore. In this specific film, his wife accidentally gets shot. And then he just goes down a rabbit hole of drugs, addiction, losing their daughter, and then just trying to find himself again as a person, as a dad, as a fighter, to earn his way back in life, not only to become a champion again, but to become a great dad again, because now he's a single dad who the mom basically took care of the child the whole time. So now he had to actually learn how to become a single parent and to become a father. And I think it's a great redemption story in the sense of, second chances are necessary. We're not perfect. We're human. We all fuck up. And to be able to have a second chance to redeem yourself is so important. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this film. And you have some amazing performances, of course, by Rachel McAdams, Jake Gyllenhaal, Forrest Whitaker, 50, Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent, and so many others. But yeah, it's a great film, and this is definitely one that I would remember going to go see in theaters multiple times because it was so good. And I actually remember that Eminem was up for the role, but he thought he was too old, so he recommended Jake Gyllenhaal, and that's how Jake Gyllenhaal got the audition.
Yep.
So that's a really cool piece of information or history, I guess you could say. But yeah, number 2 for me, Southpaw.
That's a good one, man. I loved that movie, and I did not see it in the theaters. I caught it on cable like well after, and yeah, I loved it. I was like, how did I not go see this in the theaters?
Right.
My number 2, it's maybe one of the best boxing movies of all time, not just in our lists, but just in general, one of the greatest of all time. And how could it not be? It's one of the earliest collaborations between Marty Scorsese and Bobby De Niro. I'm talking about Raging Bull. And anytime you get De Niro and Scorsese together, it's a hit. It's going to be huge. This is the real life story of Jake LaMotta, though. And it's funny because this story is kind of like the preemptive story of The Champ. Jake LaMotta was like a green fighter, but he got in the ring and he just obliterated people and became one of the greatest fighters of all time. But it took its toll on him. Outside of the ring, he was like a ticking time bomb. He was very volatile and and by the end of his rise to fame, he's got nobody to share it with because he basically loses everybody. His family, his friends, the people closest to him, and he basically is alone. And so you see, unlike The Champ who's trying to redeem himself after that journey, this is that journey. You see the rise and fall of Jake LaMotta in this film. So it's a beautiful character study, which you always get from Scorsese. It's always about character with Scorsese. And while it's a boxing film, and De Niro is fucking awesome in the ring as Jake LaMotta. I mean, you're used to seeing him as kind of like a gangster and a heavy, but he's fucking in shape and he's whooping ass. I mean, this is a really good film. This is 1980, so I was 10. So Bobby's a little bit older than me, but not much. But I love this fucking film. It's great. It's black and white, shot in black and white. It's fucking brilliant, which I love. But if you want a really good boxing film that's a true story and a great character study of how not to do it, this is the film, Raging Bull. Hence the title, Raging Bull. Really good in the ring, not so good in life outside the ring to be a raging bull. And that's, again, what this film is really all about, showing you the balancing of act of trying to be what you have to be in the ring, but not letting it be what you are outside of the ring, and how do you balance that? And unfortunately for Jake LaMotta, he couldn't. So I hope this one's on your list. You're a Scorsese fan. If you haven't seen this one, you gotta see this one.
I know. I feel like, yeah, it is on my list, and I haven't seen it yet. And it's one of those that I feel like I have to be fully immersed in. So I've been waiting for the opportunity to, and the moment, just to be all in, basically in the right headspace to where I'm like, all right, fully focused.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to do with the wedding and stuff.
No, yeah.
Try to be fully focused on anything, but yeah, I've passed by it so many times recently, actually, like within the past month, and I'm like, but I want to give it so much time. That's what it is. Kind of like with The Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
you know? I just want to be engulfed in it. So
because it's a Scorsese film. There's so much that you have to be watching and paying attention to, because it's so layered and it's so deep, and there's so much. If you're not all in, you're missing 90% of what Scorsese's trying to tell you.
Exactly.
So, you can watch it halfway and see a great boxing movie, but there's so much more that you don't want to miss with a Scorsese film. So, yeah. But anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, my number 2, Raging Bull. Totally worth it.
Yes, for sure. Number 1 for me, I wouldn't say is actually a boxing movie, but it's MMA, so it's just, It's
like putting Bloodsport on there with Jean-Claude Van Damme. What the fuck? No, I'm kidding.
Instead of 4 corners, it's an octagon, and it's fine. But I'm talking about Warrior, and this is honestly the first time I saw Tom Hardy in anything. And Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, dude. Oh my! First of all, they could really be brothers.
They could be,
for sure. And I mean, this story of, because it reminded me so much of me and my brother, where we were close when we were younger, and then now we've drifted so far apart to where the only thing brings us back together is a certain amount of contentiousness, me, oi, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, they're both basically fighting for the love of their dad, Nick Nolte, who is a raging alcoholic who never was really there for them. And it's kind of like similar situations to what I grew up in. My dad was not a raging alcoholic, but we also did fight for his attention all the time. And I just felt like the story hit really close for home, and it's such a good watch. I forget, it might have been Kayla Adams, who was a former guest on our show. She recently watched it and posted it on her Instagram story, and we had a little nice back and forth about it. But it's a beautiful, beautiful telling of just, two brothers coming from two completely different places in life who just need a win, right? And we all come from a place where we just feel like we keep falling down and we just need that one win, when in all actuality, the win is to have family and people around you. That's the actual win. But yeah, I mean, you can get so deep with this film, but be sure to check it out. I don't know what it's on right now. On IMDb Pro, it says Mubi, M-U-B-I. I didn't even know that was a thing. Apparently, that is a Prime Video channel. And then I think it's on Netflix as well. So be sure to check out Warrior. It's really freaking good. But yeah, my number one, man. My number one.
Solid. My number one is, I'm staying in the Rocky franchise, but this one for me is the best of them all. Rocky 4. First of all, it's got the single best training sequence in any fighting film ever, when they're showing you the stark differences of the Russian using the machines and shots and like high tech, and then you got my man Rocky, who's high-tailing it with a tree in the fucking snow, going up mountains and pulling, tractors and shit, working out in the barn. One of the greatest training sequences in a film I've ever seen. It's beautiful the way it's shot, everything. But this film, this is the start of the downfall of Rocky, where he's starting to get the effects of being hit way too many times. This is the start of where he's realizing that he's been manipulated and the money's gone and he's not aware of it yet. This is where it all starts to go, where it's full circle. When you see him again in Rocky 5, he's basically busted. This is the start of it. But this film also is one of those, it's the end of Apollo. It's the blood does not always mean family. Sometimes it's your family is not blood. Apollo is family. And so when Apollo dies, Rocky's got to defend him. Rocky's got to make that right. Rocky's got to kind of... So it's about the dynamic of their relationship and what it meant to him and who he is because of Apollo. And it's about overcoming enemies and making right, that we have more in common than we do separate, and that we can get along. And the backdrop is, if you guys don't know, this is set in the 80s, and the backdrop is Russia versus the USA during the Cold War, at the height of the Cold War. And they've got the premiere of Russia, and it's a great lookalike of Mikhail Gorbachev at that time, and he's even got he just doesn't have the little tattoo, but he looks just like him. You know who it's supposed to be. And of course, Dolph Lundgren, playing the big giant Russian that's gonna crush him. But it's I remember seeing it, and of course, coming up in that era, I saw it in the theaters. And for me, when Rocky is in Russia and he's taking on and he's at Drago, and he starts to win over the Russians, and they start chanting Rocky, and the Russian people, in the military are looking like, what the fuck? We're gonna kill you all! Like, why are you chanting for this guy? But my theater stood up. And they were screaming, USA! USA! It was just a moment of pure patriotism in my theater, where, this guy is representing, he's holding the flag up after he wins, and my whole theater was fucking going nuts with patriotism, pride of being an American. And yet it was that storyline of they overcame, that he won over the Russian people because of he was trying to send a message of, we're all the same. And if I can do this, you can do this, and we can all do this, and we can come together as one. And of course, as we know, Reagan with Gorbachev tear this wall down, and that did happen for a long time until a certain Putin. But but it did, and this movie I felt was going on at that time. It's just, I don't know. I don't know whether it's the boxing. I don't know whether it was the friendship angle, the family angle, whatever, or just the pure on patriotism of Russia versus the USA and all that. But it just stands out for me as to why it's my number one movie, because you get pumped up. I still get pumped up every time I watch it. It's like, yeah, I want to put the fucking flag on and it's one of those movies where you can't help but be fired up. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. This is one of the ones I was recommending, because if you're going to watch Creed, Drago and Apollo play a pretty big role in Creed, so you got to figure it out. Kind of want to know who they are. Just saying.
For sure. Well, what is your top 5 favorite boxing movies, or your favorite? We want to know. Be sure to comment below in the comment section, and of course, add us on Threads, Twitter, all the good places. Well, we'll run through this box office recap and IMDb Pro's trending segment.
Yes.
Box office recap. I mean, Dune Part 2, 83 million, which went over their expectations, but I think they knew that was going to happen. They were trying to play it safe. And I got my ticket for Monday, so next time we do a show, I'll be sure to have a nice little review.
Yes.
Hopefully Timothy proves me wrong, but he never fucking does.
It's okay. I'm all in for Zendaya. Sorry.
All in. Number 2, Bob Marley, One Love with 7.4 million. Ordinary Angels came in at number 3 with 3.9 million. The Chosen episode 4 came 4.7. With 3.3 million. And Madam Web came in at number 5 with 3.2 million. The Chosen is that religious show that just continues to fucking do amazing numbers on network and in theaters. So, I mean, it's a global thing, man. It's a global thing.
It is.
New movies coming out. Kung Fu Panda 4, Imaginary Cabaneri, Love, Lies, Bleeding, and Accidental Texan.
Yeah.
All interesting things. Movies you can still go see, of course, Argyle, Migration, Past Lives, American Fiction, Holdovers, in select theaters near you. And then the IMDb Pro's top trending segment. The top trending movie is Dune Part 2, of course. That only makes sense. The top trending TV show is Avatar: Last Airbender. And then the top trending star is Rebecca Ferguson. All good things, man. All good things.
All good things.
Well, we got to thank our guest one more time, Danny Ruhlmann, for coming on the show and getting a little crazy with us. Be sure to check out Anyone But You. That is also still in some theaters right now. So it's a great film. Be sure to check it out. Great rom-com. Rated R, too. I think all rom-coms should be rated R.
I think so.
That only makes sense. I mean, it's a mirror to real life. Be sure to follow him. He has great social media, great pictures, all the good stuff. And be sure to follow us on social media at Crazy Ant Media and at ITCAFpodcast. And, of course, our mental health podcast at Everything's OKP. And then, of course, us both personally on social media. Myself at J. Logan Austin and
at Crazy Ant CEO.
That's right. And be sure to subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Stitcher, and so much more. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for all the latest and greatest notifications coming out of Crazy Ant Media. And, of course, be sure to visit our website, www.crazyantmedia.com, where you can start rocking the latest and greatest Crazy Ant Media gear. We got everything and anything you need as far as apparel needs.
It's true.
And then, of course, I feel like, the succession of Avatar, the succession of Shogun, and, I mean, you got some interesting stuff coming out soon that we reported on in this week's industry news. So I think the entertainment industry is trying to just get back on track, man. It's just trying to get back on track.
Agreed. It's nice to see a resurgence at the box office. I think that's a fantastic thing. There is a place for both streaming and box office, and we're finally seeing the balance, I think, and I'm loving that. And anytime, anywhere that we can include anything in the industry news with the only O that matters, I mean, how can you not love that? I mean, come on.
Exactly. The one, the only,
Ozempic!